on. There we are. Back
Here we are.
for the next round. Rumble. This time without a countdown. By some strange mishap, I initial video. Hey.
I was already wondering, but I thought, okay, maybe you want to have a different style.
He's got a plan.
Yes, it's fine. Yeah. Who needs a
countdown?
Yeah.
Yes, without the countdown, we'll survive. Today we've got a great topic because we want to talk about how to actually activate all of that nice data that you've then more or less got sitting and waiting and dying away in that nice silo that you've then created called data warehouse, or call it data lake, or data mesh,
whatever,
or
lake warehouse.
Whatever you want to call it. Sorry, yeah, that's fancy. That's a fancy one.
Or in your data mesh, somewhere in your somewhere deep down in your data mesh,
somewhere hidden. And let's start with this. Why do you think companies need a reverse ETL? Or rather, even what is a reverse ETL? Because that's now the next hype train that we're pushing through MarTech, data, and then marketing land currently.
So what should I do? Should I do why they need it or what it is?
No, what? Let's start with the what. What is that actually?
The funny thing is we currently have two terms which are basically competing with each other, which one will be established as a term for it. So we have reverse ETL on the one hand, on the other hand we have operational analytics. And so, I mean, maybe I start with that. I would say reverse ETL, so basically it's a technical term, so basically describes the process. And so why reverse? Reverse means, I mean, on the one hand, we have ETL, so which is extract, transfer, load, which was our old approach to basically load some data from some place like your database or from third-party services like Stripe, your CRM, into your data warehouse. And reverse, calling itself reverse because it's basically the way back. So what we do now is we're creating a loop. So with reverse ETL, we can push back data from our data warehouse back to our CRM systems, into advertisement platforms. I mean, the sky's the limit. So I would say right now, these are the major use cases so that we push data back into our CRMs and advertisement platforms. Yeah, I mean, you can do anything with that. So you can push it, for example, in your Jira tickets. So whatever you want to do. My camera is bad.
Timo, your cam just said goodbye.
Yeah, this is the problem. I'm still waiting for my power cable, so we can change.
But now you're yeah, exactly. I mean, Timo's now got such a fancy setup as I do. Front?
Yeah, not
Side.
Definitely not fancy, as you can see. So the camera hold it 5 minutes because it was already working for an hour before. So,
okay.
but that's reverse ETL. Let's say the technical thing. So you basically you create either a table or a specific query on your data warehouse data, and then you use a tool for that. So there are some like Census, Hightouch, Groupo, which is open source, and then you push the data back to the CRM system. So, for example, as a use case, for example, you have let's say an activity score for potentials that or for free trial users, and so you want to you calculate this based on the data that you collect in your data warehouse, for example, activity data and so on. And you want to put this activity score back directly into the account information within your CRM, so that basically your sales and customer success persons who work in the CRM immediately see, oh, cool, look, these are 3 people with really high activity scores. Maybe we should do a call and so on. And so to do this before You either, I mean, the usual approach was always like create a dashboard, so like the usual fallback, and then sales teams had to translate this dashboard into actions.
Yeah.
This is basically the shortcut we're now doing.
Yeah. Same scenario is, for example, you've got a calculation around lead scoring, and you're not only using your web tracking data, but maybe you also want to incorporate data, let's say, from a tool like EchoBot or your own crawlers, or you are getting data from North Data or stuff like that, where you've got not only the interaction data, but if you're running a sales process like account-based, where we practically look into, okay, this is our account that we now want to win as a customer. And then you've got different stakeholders in that situation. Then you can practically enhance that rating. Who should I contact with what, etc. Bound again with the calculations that you've done in your data warehouse, theoretically. Or you push the customer lifetime value back also into your CRM. Or you transfer your data from your ERP or your backend shopping system that you've then enhanced with cost generated around your customer service into your CRM. Important part here, it's not about tool-to-tool connection. So it's not about something that you could do via a Zapier, or that you could do about with tools like Integromat or something like that, where you've got tool-to-tool communication. It's practically about you do data enhancement on your side. You combine the data on your side with your logic, with your business needs, business goals, and then you push it out to your operational systems. That's the important difference here. Because oftentimes you hear, this is nothing new. We've done this a lot of times. We do tool to tool, and fully right. Often there are scenarios, a lot of them, where it's enough just to take your backend data and directly pipe it into your CRM. That's totally valid. But
yeah, I mean, we have been working with these scripts, so let's take with CRM as well, but also like with offline conversions. So offline conversions is something we are doing basically, I don't know, for 7-8 years already. So these were just custom scripts. So either an app script, which a lot of people did for G ads, or just like some custom scripts running on some company service. So of course we did all this before, but it was always, at least in my experience, so it took some time to set up. But the major important thing is like no one really put the resources behind it to operate it then in a proper way. And so this is like, I think this is changing now, since you can just sign up for this kind of service. And so they take care of all this stuff that takes time and resources. So the operational part, the adjustments of APIs, because like HubSpot API can change at some point. And so then basically your custom script will basically fail. And so I think this is the interesting thing that you can see here.
Yeah, especially about something like a feedback. We create our own feedback data bubble within our ecosystem. Yeah, we only push the stuff that we've already optimized into our to marketing channels. Again, it could be that you're announcing your online conversions, even for your Facebook needs, with other data, or your, as Timo already said, yeah, your offline combat with a But what I want to actually get to is, if you use your reverse ETL, and I think this is also something that you're doing in your analytics sometimes, you're creating your own little truth bubble because then I'm only pushing the stuff that I've run through my filters in my data warehouse, and I trust that data more than the, let's call it, maybe even neutral stuff.
Yeah, I think. I mean, of course, like you always have the problem. I mean, that when you basically push the wrong data in the wrong place, of course, like you have issues. I mean, of course, like if you don't really have a solid data setup, then reverse ETL is the last part. It's basically like the data, dashboards and so on. So I mean, dashboards, if the data is not right on data warehouse level, wrong stuff in dashboards, and so the same, of course, applies to reverse ETL. So I mean, I think this makes it a little bit complicated to really start out with reverse ETL, because it definitely takes more requirements than when you just start to set up something like automations with Zapier and so on, because this is basically like connecting two accounts, and so those accounts are already there. And here it's really like I have to basically get first the data into my data warehouse, and then in best case transform them, model them, and then putting them back. And so this, it's definitely, I would call it a more advanced setup. But I mean, at some point, I think today we will talk about, okay, is reverse ETL the major step that we needed to move CDP into the data warehouse? I think this is, I don't know if we should discuss it now, because it's quite, I don't know, an important discussion, but maybe something for later. But I mean,
wouldn't the question be, do I need a reverse ETL if I've got a CDP?
Yeah, let's start with that.
Because I would say no. Because if I've got a good CDP vendor, then they should actually have this on board. Because that's at core then the sense of a CDP, enabling me to operationalize and enabling me to actually, get that out there and use it. I've just opened up, Timo, could you quickly jump into our events and check actually if there's a stream there? Because I fear, for me, it's currently black, and we've got some feedback here from Karina, from Michael, and some others that they're also experiencing lag and stuff like that.
Yeah. Just a second. I don't know if this basically breaks everything when I'm streaming and I'm watching myself at the same time. To create infinitive loops. So yes. I can see something. I mean,
yeah.
Does
everything look fine? Okay.
I can wave. I guess the waving comes a little bit later now.
Okay, yeah. Now I also see it.
No, I think it was a little bit your internet issue that you had before.
Yeah. I've today got massive, because actually Austria's got great internet, but currently they're rebuilding the LTE and 5G tower just down the road that I practically use, and that just for the last 2 weeks makes my internet connection not really that good. Yeah, lovely. Okay, but coming back to the topic.
Yeah.
CDP, reverse ETL, how does that fit into one another if we think about building blocks of your MarTech stack? Do I need both?
Maybe we should describe what a CDP is first, because I still think it's, how to say, new enough that maybe some people will not know. I don't know. How would you define a CDP from marketing perspective?
A CDP, so for me, you've always got these two perspectives, CRM and CDP. The CRM gathers, stores the communicational actions and interactions that were triggered by me as a company. A CDP stores, represents all interactions triggered by customers and potential customers towards me. So that means ad interactions that theoretically also then include CRM data. But I think that's how you can more or less basically split those two things, and then use your CDP to better target, analyze, and understand your customer journey and your different touch points, and even to then build specific segments around your media buying campaigns, potentially then also your CRM campaigns, because again, then there we're on a tool-to-tool feedback loop. You just have to describe what's your golden record in that sense. And then lastly, how and when then actually to trigger it and to analyze it. Did I miss something?
No, I guess it's fine. I guess you can also extend on Florian's questions, because it's definitely related to what you just said.
Oh, wait.
Can you bring it on the screen?
No, the relay doesn't even show up for me. This is great right now.
Okay. Oh, so Florian is asking you if you see
No,
the CDP.
yeah, but I've just seen the question from Florian. Does the CDP report data warehouse? And no, never, because the layer of analysis and the functions are different. I know from where Florian is coming, because also at my starting time as an analyst, I also always thought about, do I actually need a CDP? Because at starting time at Tirendo, we were practically building a data warehouse and then building analysis capabilities as you today have in a CDP on top of it. But your data warehouse is more or less for your in-depth analysis around your complete organization. That would practically also mean in my data warehouse, I've got cost-related data about interactions from that client or with that customer from our customer service. Would I have the requests of that specific customer in my CDP? No. What I would have in my CDP would have something more or less like a topic tag that customer currently has issues with ABC. But I wouldn't have in-depth analysis possibilities, because again, a CDP is a marketing tool. A data warehouse is your core tool to understand where do we stand as a business. And then you got, let's call them data marts, or we could say data mesh, whatever, where you've then got
data mesh in this
Sorry?
live stream. We don't say data mesh in this live stream.
Okay, else you leave.
Word.
But so no, they're side by side to 100%.
Yeah, I see the same. So my take on CDPs was, I mean, I was never really like in this operational marketing role, so I think this is like the reason why I see it mostly like you see it, but also like a little bit different. For me, it was always weird that they appeared, and you can also see like from the, let's say, the evolution how CDPs came up. I mean, most of them were email marketing tools before, and so they just recognized, well, the world is not just email. It includes, of course, like different kind of other channels, and because we're already good in email, so maybe we can just extend what we do, and so we put a landing page it on, and then, I mean, all the stuff that you can now see like in MailChimp or all the other like GetResponse, and so like, I mean, in the end, they are all doing this stuff. Basically build you a small CDP. And so it was always, how to say, I mean, it always looked like a shortcut in time where I'm not really sure if it will stay over time. And so this is, I think, that where we come back with reverse ETL, because like CDP made, let's say, some more data stuff more accessible for marketing teams. Because like, I mean, you never want to have the situation where a marketing team says, hey, we want to test out a new email sequence, and please, my dear data team, can you please write me a query that get me these kind of people with these kind of conditions? I mean, no one wants to get in this situation because this takes weeks, because people, I mean, it's a lot of back and forth, and then it doesn't fit. And so CDP really made this super simple, because in the end, and this is, I think, still something where the CDPs have a huge advantage. It's really like this segment building, where some CDPs are really, really powerful to do that, where you can, I mean, can build this based on whatever kind of behavior. And this is really cool, and so on. I think one of the reasons why then CDPs really become successful, and this is, for example, something that reverse ETL doesn't solve for you yet. So in the end, you still need a query. So you need to either do it yourself, or you have to find someone to write this query and then to push the data back. And so this is really not something that you will use. I think you will not use, at least not at the moment, you will not use reverse ETL to do campaigns and testing and experimentation a lot. So it's more like for this stuff that's already settled, where you already think, okay, that already makes sense. This kind of data we should really get into our different kind of marketing tools, and we want to make it solid, and we want to make it work all the time. So I think this is the important part about the current state about reverse ETL, I would say.
Yeah.
Quite involved.
But on this point there, I don't even think that you'll have such a big shift, because how should a reverse ETL tool actually then enable you to do those kinds of data segmentations and cutting stuff without then again building you an interaction layer on top of what's already there? Because then we'll again have the discussion about tool bloat. We have our data warehouse that's got its own analysis engine, Apache Spark, Power BI, Looker, or then we'll have our reverse ETL, for which we'll then again need something like a fancy layer from my reporting and analysis tool to get those analyses to be activated in my reverse ETL. And then we've got the CDP that theoretically should actually be the core data driver for my reverse ETL processes, because those are already more focused around customers and acquisition and retention than about classic housing. So I think we've still got a long road ahead of us, actually, about enabling your data to be really, really actionable in that complete concept. Because currently they're all plugging onto your BigQuery, they're plugging onto your Redshift, they're plugging into your Snowflake data warehouse. They're not plugging on top of your CDP. And I think that's a mismatch in the logic of where and how do I actually want to use or utilize it. Because for me, a reverse ETL tool is more in my marketing stack than it is in my classic business operations customer service stack.
But this, I think, is really like a matter of time. So, I mean, what we do now, I mean, it's always like marketing and sales usually driving the implementations. The first integrations usually come from this because you immediately see the effects. So immediately when sales team, I don't know, if you enable the sales team to have more time to do, I don't know, 5 or 10% more deals a month, so you already have an immediate impact. So this is like why all the energy goes into this kind of thing. But I can definitely see a really near future that we so that this data that we might collect in the data warehouse, that this becomes, or that this moves on to the operational layer. So I don't know, enhancing product, enhancing development in some part. And so, like, I mean, it sounds funny, but honestly, for example, to use maybe reverse ETL to generate Jira tickets in some ways could be interesting.
That's a fancy, yeah.
Some, I don't know, metrics are down and so on, so that then you basically just like generate a Jira. I mean, development already works with these kind of things. So like if you have Datadog or Sentry and so on, so if they figure out an issue, so they immediately can generate tickets out of it. But it's simple logic. So they see one incident and then basically create a ticket. And so I think the thing with reverse ETL is like, it's for complicated, let's say, data analysis or output of complicated data analysis, where you can then just trigger some actions out of it.
I honestly like this, and yes, this is from a vendor, this is from High Touch, but I actually like their visualization, because you don't have Google Analytics, you've got Snowplow. You don't have Redshift or BigQuery, you've got Snowflake in there. You've got Looker, you've got Amplitude, etc. So you've already got a lot of tools. And the interesting part here, what I'm missing, is that High Touch now says, okay, we're again then our tool where you have to then again recreate the analysis that you've run in Looker. And this is now the interesting part, because Looker has created also a sort of reverse ETL, especially with their marketing related analysis tools, where you can write back, for example, bid optimizations and that kind of stuff. And I think this is the interesting part, because what you hear is then you've got reverse ETL into Slack. What? That's a bit strange, but you can practically not only put it into your CRM, this is what we currently got here, but you can things like sales, but calculate your ROAS, and then directly even adapt the revenue in your data warehouse or in another system, and then push it out to your marketing. So through, let's say, your marketing or your marketing intelligence platform or whatever, adapt it to specific business needs. So that then, for example, would enable you to not calculate the ROAS in Google Ads, but actually optimize OMI or stuff like that. And you just enhance all those conversions based around your underlying cost structures that you've got on your end, which practically then helps you to use a better metric, in my eyes, optimize your marketing, to optimize your search campaigns, your social campaigns, and even your media buying in general. So as strongly as I like this image, I don't like that they're only focusing, and I think a lot of reverse ETL tools can only focus on push your data back into your CRM.
Yeah.
And I think that misses a lot of potential that is in this overallology.
I mean, two aspects to that. So one, I think yes, and I think this is just like market opportunity. I think it's the easiest way to basically sell your tools, and you can see it. I mean, Census, like another reverse ETL tool, just announced yesterday that they raised 60 million in the Series B. So they are basically in the same class now, like DVT or Airbyte, and so you can really see. I mean, and they just started out. I mean, they basically really do this CRM data back. I mean, they do other things too, also like advertisement platform, or you can even push data back to Amplitude. But I think this is the major use case. So of course but the interesting thing is, like, I think we just see 2% of what's possible at the moment. And so we will see a lot more things. So what makes me quite excited about this kind of technology is like, we now start to evolve beyond the dashboard. And Philipp knows me for some time, and I'm not really a huge ambassador for the dashboard. So I'm never really liked them because for me, they always looked like okay, we don't have a better way to do it kind of tool. And I mean, of course, there are dashboards who are super important, super cool, and super useful, and they will stick around for ages like this. But I would say 90% of the dashboards are just there because no one really actually had a better idea how to do it. And I mean, basically like the same existence that Excel has. So it's just like because no one actually found a better way to do it. And the big problem that we always have in data is basically like to get data interaction. I mean, you have to look, you can read every blog about data. And so every second or third blog is about, okay, it's so much fun to do all these kind of data stuff. And so we all here in the data space have huge stuff to do, tracking and data modeling and transformation and so on. So, but in the end, it does not generate revenue and it does not reduce costs. So it's data has a long path where it's just data for data's sake. And to reach a level where it basically really improves marketing, improves sales, improves products, and so on, it's quite a long journey. And the interesting thing about reverse ETL or operational analytics in general, which is, I would say, more like the business category, is basically like now we're starting to experiment with ways to get data directly. So I think in the first stage, we just get the data where the people basically work. I think this is the first step that we are doing right now. So the sales team doesn't want to look into Looker. The sales team doesn't want to open Tableau reports to figure out stuff. I mean, if you have ever tried to do dashboard training with sales teams, so this is the most frustrating job that you can have because no one really cares. I mean, you're basically holding them back to do their job, which is like selling stuff. And they are highly motivated, and they have a lot of incentives to focus on sales and not in looking in Looker or dashboards or any kind of other things. And so since we now really get easier possibilities to put data back into the tools where they basically are every day, I think then we can really test. And this is important that I say that it's really testing. So we can test out different ways how we can get data back to them and figure out, okay, what really helps them. So reverse ETL doesn't really make snap and immediately makes a sales team 100% more productive. Definitely not. But it just opened up a new way, and I think this is the interesting thing, where we will do so many things. We will learn so many things over the next 4 or 5 years. What we can do with that, and what could be good playbooks, good recipes, how to do it, and so on. I think all the tools will evolve. So, I mean, with, let's say, Census and High Touch, which are really like the two category defining services, we see the first implementation. You can already see other implementation, which are, you could also put in the category like operational analytics, but go take a different approach. So for example, I had a call with Correlate yesterday, and Correlate, for example, they basically also you can basically base them on their data warehouse, on your data warehouse data, but they don't just push data into CRM, so like fill custom fields. So they, for example, can create segment of users for you, which you can then use in your email marketing tool. Or what I think their major focus at the moment is like, they can create tasks in Salesforce or HubSpot. So just based on business rules. So like, okay, if this user basically drops below that and so on, we should call them and so on. So you can basically use it as a simple task engine. But this is already interesting because a task is actually already a step further. So it's basically like taking another step and just pushing the data into it. And so really like at least recommending an action based on that. I mean, in the beginning, it's a stupid action. It's just, it's a business rule. And so maybe 70% doesn't really make sense, but you can refine and you can work on it. And so this is interesting that we really now have a platform where we can experiment.
Like it, and I really love it, or rather, that you're stressing the testing aspect so strongly, because I think this is also something that we're more or less missing again in the handover process between marketing and sales. You've got a lot of lead enrichment of just marketing activities that should support sales, but those are never practically shown and visualized then in the tools that sales uses. So a lot of times you then don't know which ads did a person interact with. You maybe see they downloaded that white paper and they maybe wrote that in our call, or maybe even they asked that top question towards our customer service. That's great, but you don't know with what ad did they come, with what need specifically did we trigger them, etc., etc., etc. So a lot of the stuff that you then have in so-called discovery calls from your sales team, there's then a lot of things that sales agent theoretically asks, which is another topic, but already knows a bit more about that he's talking with. An interesting part to that is Florian hooked us up with a question. Do you see any challenges with data latency? Sometimes it's really hard to make all data processes near real time. Do I need near real time? So for programmatic advertising, yes, but that's something where we're talking about. For my sales processes and for the other stuff, no.
I think yes. They are definitely. I mean, you need it on top. I would say it's an additional layer.
But how fast can you react? Can I react within 10 minutes of something showing up in my, I don't know, operational CRM dashboard around something?
No, that's really good. So I can maybe, what I can recommend is like there is a really nice Slack community out there which is called Operational Analytics, and so I don't know how I can look it up, the link in a second. So and the same discussion that we just brought up, we had in last week. We always have every bi-weekly check-in where we discuss, like, I don't know, data philosophies things, and we discussed the matter of real time 2 weeks ago, and it was the same question. So of course, like, if the receiving end of real time is a human, then it's really limited, because in the end, humans can just act as we can act. So we are not super cool in I mean, of course, we are really good in real time acting. I mean, if not, we could not drive or walk or do anything. But we have a limited attention span, so we cannot receive, I don't know, 200 different events from different kind of categories at the same time and act on that. But I think real time becomes interesting when we hook up just systems, and so at the point in time where we basically, and I mean, this is like the future where I always want to be. It's like where we basically have a lot of stuff just running automatically in some kind of systems, and we just check them on specific times to see, okay, if they're really doing the job that we want to do them. And so in that case, I mean, real time cart abandonment emails, it's definitely a real-time thing in some ways, because you don't want to send it 2 days later. I mean, you can, it could be a strategy. And I think there are other ways. So like some new...
That's nothing for your reverse ETL.
No, why not? So, I mean, in the end, the data warehouse doesn't send you an email. So you have to pass on the information to somewhere. And
yeah, but
I'm just seeing from... Go ahead.
Your tool should directly be integrated into that. So if you're...
Yeah, but for example, if you really see a future where you don't want to use an external extra CDP anymore, which I definitely see and which I definitely would like to have, so then I have to cover these kind of use cases as well, because right now a CDP can easily do that. So
yeah. So the logic would be, I've got, let's say, my web analytics software, server side or client side, independent, I see somebody is adding stuff to the cart. He is a repeat customer, which enables us to send him an email. Otherwise, yeah, we're got problems. And then I see that there's a breakaway because we don't have a checkout, or rather, we don't have an incoming order after time frame of Y, and then we trigger that cart reactivation.
Yeah.
WhatsApp message, SMS, email, push notification, whatever you wish for.
Billboard next to your house.
You now have to buy, and that would be great. Combining your online activities with digital out of home, that would be awesome. But again, is where within that pipeline does then my data warehouse and the reverse ETL come into play? Because this is practically something that I do on the basis of my marketing automation software stack.
Only if you need more data to make this decision. So only if you have different business models, different data that you want to incorporate in this whole equation. If you're totally fine with your web analytics trackings to make the decision, so this is maybe why the cart abandonment example is not the best example, but maybe you want to refine it, maybe you want to add different kind of logic. And so maybe you might be, I mean, in the end, why do we go to data warehouse setups? Usually it's like always the same trigger. It's like because we cannot.
So
The interesting thing is, like, I think we.
Now, did we lose Timo? This is now really interesting. But coming back to that point, yes, we've lost Timo. And now Timo's back.
Yes, maybe it's a crazy day for internet stuff.
Sorry, everybody, for these hiccups. I quickly want to jump in there because I do actually think your e-commerce cart reactivation example is good. Because most of the reactivation emails that you get is only, hey, you've forgotten product XYZ in your cart.
Yeah.
Not only do I think these emails are too unsexy, but I think with the buying history that you already have, you can make those stories more engaging. You can make those emails more engaging. Because if you then understand, for example, let's say you're an online store for hobby chefs, and you already know that they've bought a new knife set and they've bought new cutting boards, and now they've left the sharpening set for their knives in the cart. Then you can directly build a story about this and integrate more emotional triggers. And you can only do that because you do have and you utilize the data then that you've got in your backend shopping system, or then theoretically in your data warehouse, to also enrich that. And then you can use that as data points within your flow logic then in your automation system.
As you know, I really love your story-based approach to marketing. And this is a great example. I mean, imagine, so you left this sharpener there because you're not sure if it really works for the knife that you already have. And you get an email and they're saying, hey, just to let you know, maybe if you're unsure if this sharpener works for your knives, actually it does. And so, I mean, and this is, for example, often like the use case when I keep stuff in the cart because I'm not sure about something in some ways. So I have to research something, but I already have put it in the cart. So it might be the price, often for some people it's just the price. But that could be the same. So like, I don't know, we just checked on our Idealo, and so it looks like we are quite competitive with our price. And so, I mean, it enables interesting use cases, but as we can see, it needs a good creative mind to basically come up with these use cases. So, I mean, this is in the end always like part of the story that
exactly
that you really have to, let's say, play on these tools in some way.
Yes, but, at the end of the day,
No, but in the end, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm a big believer that real time will be I mean, at some point it will be just commodity. So of course, like data will flow in real time at some point. But I don't want to open this one big question that we then had in this other discussion 2 weeks ago, which was then, do we still need analytics when everything is real time? So we can leave this for a different session, which is quite interesting question indeed. So it's definitely
We need that as a topic for next time, real time and stuff like that, because then we're also in the field of personalization, A/B testing, stuff like that. That could also be awesome. Which is exactly one of the points that I wanted to make, is real time in a sense also for personalization. And just coming back to an example, actually not my own, but that's from Mark, is the personalization of the homepages of different e-commerce brands. So Zalando recognizes you, and if you more often shop, for example, in the men's category, then they're adapting their homepage to visualize more men's products. Now let's compare that to Otto.de.
I haven't been on
Nope.
Otto.de for ages, so I don't know.
No personalization there. I haven't checked about you. I don't know, honestly. It's the same logic for example, Amazon. Yeah, that they're building their cohorts more or less based around near real-time data to optimize their recommendation engine. And I think that's another interesting part where then your data warehouse comes into play combined with your recommendation engine, because you wouldn't push your things from your data warehouse via a reverse ETL into your recommendation engine. Your recommendation engine directly sucks stuff out of your data warehouse, because otherwise your time delay would just be too big. But now comes the interesting part. You can actually hook up your recommendation engine to other tools via reverse ETL logic. Yeah? That would mean you're pushing recommended products from in near real time from your into your marketing automation software, into your ads, adapting your product feeds based around recommendations. Yeah? So even coming to the sense where you don't need product recommendations based around a criteria or stuff like that, which is a different topic coming about third-party cookies. But your environment gets way more enclosed, as you said already. I just love storytelling and marketing, that you can then really optimize the different story steps and the different customer journey steps around where do we think that this potential customer currently is. How do we resegment the audience on Facebook, on Twitter, on Pinterest, on LinkedIn, on Twitch, or even YouTube ads? Yeah, because what I think is massive is actually doing storytelling with video ads, something that you can do so marvelously and is just not used. Really using that to target the people. Yes, that means that you then have to share email addresses. So yeah, we're again coming into GDPR and stuff like that, different topic. But that's then something where you use the reverse ETL stuff. Yeah? Because then you've identified this customer was in cart, is now left, but then you've got the situation to retarget them with an interest activation ad on YouTube. And YouTube's numbers are still growing, or do that on TikTok potentially, wherever you think your audience then is. Yeah, but really segment not only your messages, but who do I target with what, then on the basis of sharing that information.
Yeah. No, I guess we are really good in scratching the surface today. So I think they're like, and this is like the interest, and this is what I said, like this interesting thing that now we really can think about. Okay, what kind of stuff we can really do, and then maybe just because we have basically 10 minutes. So what I really want to get back to is like 2 simple examples how you can start with reverse ETL that will immediately give you a benefit, and they're really easy to implement. So one thing is offline conversions and basically maybe returns of your thing. So just depending on your business model and so on. So it might be the case that your conversions not always happening basically on your website, or maybe you can even do it additionally that you just send some offline conversions that your backend system is basically tracking, where the truth is, and that you then send it to your advertisement platform, so to your analytics tool as an additional data point. And this data point maybe in the beginning just might help you to just calculate the gap between what you track on the front end and just what you track on the back end, so that in the end, at least you have a little bit more data around this discussion, which is always, everyone knows this from different kind of meetings, like, yeah, but we actually have 50 conversions, not 42. So it's really good if you can just send the backend data that can say, yeah, we tracked the 51, so we have a gap of 8, and so we can invest some time to explain the 8 missing conversions. This is one use case. This is really straightforward to do and possibly really easy. The second one, which I find really interesting because I do a lot of tracking setups, is like in GA4 or in Amplitude or Mixpanel, anything else, you can work with user properties. And user properties is a really cool feature in the tracking setups where you can, if you can identify someone logged in, so you can pass some context information with this kind of account that just has logged in. And so, for example, if you are, I don't know, a CRM tool, or if you're just, maybe let's take a task management. If you're a task management tool, so for example, you can pass in the number of open tasks this person has. So the number of tasks they created over time, on which subscription plan they are, and do they have a newsletter subscription, and so on. So this is always like this kind of context that you put into this user properties. And when I, for example, do tracking plans and discuss these tracking plans with the developers, they are usually not so happy when I come up with all this different stuff, because usually what you put into user properties are calculated metrics. So I just mentioned it, so the total number of tasks. So this is something that has to be calculated. And if you want to try this on the fly, speak to your developers. They are really happy about these things. There are different ways how to handle it in a different way, but it includes some work. The interesting thing about reverse ETL is basically like, you don't really have to do it once the people log in. So you can just do this later, or maybe every hour. So you basically have the user ID, and you take the user ID, and then you take all your calculated metrics out of your data warehouse, and you just sync it every hour into Amplitude, into GA4, or into a Mixpanel, and so on. So you always have good data, and none of your developers will hate you, because you basically move the payload to a different process where it totally makes more sense. And this is really a very simple use case, and I really love it. So once I discovered it, it's now really like my regular. So if someone has a data warehouse setup, it's my regular recommendation to really say, yeah, so we love all these calculated metrics, but we just sync them from the back end with reverse ETL into the tools.
Yeah.
So this is definitely something where you can start.
Yes. Data enrichment on that level, doing it based on your data warehouse. The interesting part is you said, okay, then you're not stressing your developers. Theoretically, you're stressing your data analysts or your data engineers. So the pain point is on one of two levels.
Yes, you need to have someone who writes the query. Unless you want to write it yourself, but we all don't believe in marketing people writing SQL queries, which was a ridiculous thought 2 years ago already, and still one. We can do another session about this too. But I'm a strong disbeliever. Marketing people have so many talents they should focus on, and they should not really waste their time to learn SQL unless they're marketing analysts. So of course, like, you have to find someone who writes a query for you. But the good thing is, like, it's a one-time thing. So in the end, you say, okay, these are like the 5-6 enrichment criteria I want to have, and then you write a query. And honestly, these queries are usually pretty simple. So it's not so hard to write these queries.
I've done something similar, actually based around with fintech. And we haven't even used a reverse ETL tool. We just activated. In this case, it was based on Google Cloud Platform. We just activated their serverless functions and just have those running and just push it into platform, because that was practically even data that you didn't get in the front end, because we don't want to expose those days. Again, you can expose data, but what you mustn't forget, expose something in the front end. Everybody can get it. It's crawlable. You can just request it. So again, there's an aspect of even data security and data governance in this complete logic of utilizing the systems you already have. So something that you should look into your data stack or your tech stack from day zero. No, but let's say once you are in the phase of and not of market fits and stuff like that, then theoretically, yes. Second step, if you're thinking about a strategy, a personalization for your product, for your marketing websites, for whatever, then again, yes. And that even from day zero on, because reverse ETL and enriching the data in your tech platforms, and then also using that to build testing segments should be at the core of your testing strategy. Because without that, then you're testing more or less blindly across everything. And then you'd have to export your testing results, segment that data in your data warehouse, and blah. I'm really there from an operational standpoint, push as much information as you are legally allowed to into your testing tools, because that just enables to build better experiments and to better learn with and from your customers and users how to make their lives easier, how to communicate with them, and how to also better activate your customers. And that's what Timo said. How many tasks do they have running? What did they buy? What's their gender theoretically? What devices do they mainly use? Okay, that's something you can get from the front of your but what's their average order value? What contract are they? Are they monthly or half-year or yearly basis? All that just helps you to understand not only your customer, but also to help them understand you and your product better.
Yeah.
So Timo, we have 4 minutes, as always. Closing words are yours.
Go ahead.
No, they're yours.
Okay. That's a good question. I mean, we already promoted to test out, or to at least think about reverse ETL. So to really look, I mean, what I can really recommend is like follow the space, follow the two big vendors at the moment, like Census and High Touch. So because they will move a lot of new things, and watch the space and really look where it can make sense for you for a first use. I mean, we already sketched out, and the more I think about it, I think this enrichment thing is really something that can be really interesting for you. So for example, if you're an e-commerce site, look at some e-commerce sites, what kind of data they expose on their website, because it's the only way at the moment how to get it in some analytics tools. And imagine a world where you just have one product ID that you show in your data layer, and that's it. So one ID, and the rest is just the enrichment process that comes from the backend. So next time you talk to some developer, just mention these kind of things. They will really like the idea, because it makes everyone's life a lot easier. So, I mean, I guess this is quite a good clothing thing. So try to introduce tools that make your life of everyone in your company easier. I think reverse ETL can definitely be something like this.
Perfect. Great. As always, thanks, and to everybody listening and watching. Sorry, technical difficulties this time. Nevertheless, thanks also for your questions. Thank you for joining us. And the next session, again, will be in 2 weeks, which will be the 24th of February. I'll get an invite. It could be real-time data, or it could be T-shaped marketing. Does a marketer actually need to write queries? We'll see. Timo and I will discuss. If you've got input questions, don't hesitate to contact Timo or myself. Sorry?
Or topics. So
exactly.
Any kind of topics that you want to see.
So with that, everybody have a wonderful day, and talk to you too, Timo. Bye-bye.
Bye.